Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the English with Kirsty podcast. And today we're continuing our series about learning and the different forms that learning can take. And one of the topics that I wanted to look at in this series is about mentoring, because it's not something that I have had much experience with, but I see a lot of information about it, particularly on LinkedIn. And I wanted to bring in some people who know more about this than I do so that we can find out their experiences, find out what they've learned, and also find out a bit more about the Women in Localization mentorship program, because I know that's something that many of my listeners will already know something about, whether you're involved or not. And I thought it would be useful to give you some more information about that as well, so you can learn and maybe get involved if it's something that's relevant to you and something that you're not already involved in. So I've got two guests here today, and we're going to find out a bit more about them. Let's start. I don't know them very well, so this is new for me too. I get to learn something new as well. So let's start with Tamara, because I've spoken to you a little bit and you're my first contact about this topic. Could you tell us something about who you are and what you do, and maybe your connection with mentorship as well?
Hello, Kirsty. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Tamara Tirjak. I am the head of localization at Frontier Developments, an independent video game publisher and developer in Cambridge, UK. But what's probably more relevant for this podcast topic is that I am the global manager of the mentorship program at Women in Localization. I started there a couple of months ago, and even before that, I have been a mentorship junkie. So I've been involved with the program for about 4 years now, from the very beginning. And this is a program I am very deeply passionate about. So it is very exciting to discuss it with you today and with Teresa as well.
Okay, well, thank you both for coming. And Teresa, could you also give us a little bit of information about you and what you do and your connection with mentoring?
Of course, and thank you for having me and Tamara for thinking of me for this session. So my name is Teresa Toronjo. I've been in the field of localization for a long time. And actually, I think it's funny because I have been looking at the mentorship program for a few years, but I didn't make the final leap of actually joining as a mentor or mentee until a few months ago, just as Tamara. But in the past, I have mentored in other formats and I missed it. So I'm really happy that Women in Localization had this opportunity. So I joined both as a mentee. So just for listeners out there, Tamara is my mentor. I am her mentee. And I also have other mentors that I mentor as well within the program.
Okay, so you can do both, but you don't have to do both. Is that right? So you can apply to be both, or you could just say I only want to be a mentee at the beginning. Like if you're somebody that wants to start as a mentee, you can do that too. Yeah, you have all the options open.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. The only difference is that anybody can be a mentor, and anybody involved in localization is very welcome to join as a mentor. But being a mentee is only for the members of Women in Localization. So in order to take advantage of being mentored, you are required to sign up as a member to the organization, which is practically free of charge, and there are lots of additional benefits coming with it. But that's one of the key differences in terms of practicalities.
Okay, so let's, there are a couple of different directions we can take this, but as we've just started talking about the Women in Localization program, maybe you could give us a little bit more information about the program and what it offers, and maybe something a bit more about, well, the history, or like how it works, to find out what's specific to this program, and then we'll move on to more general information about being a mentor or being a mentee.
Of course. So the program has been running for about 4 years now, and it has been growing very steadily. So right now, we have hundreds of mentors and mentees registered on the platform. There is a platform for the mentorship program, which does some automated matching between people who have backgrounds that make them a good match to be a mentor-mentee pair. But the decision ultimately is the mentees in which is the mentor that is. So the platform will offer about 4 or 5 potential mentors to every mentee, and they can choose who they would like to reach out to and connect and start the program with.
Okay, and is there is it planned that you will be together as mentor and mentee for like a specific time period, like 1 year, or is it until you've learned everything you can learn from them, or how is there any kind of structure around that? Or
So I think Tamara knows better than me about this, but in the way I see it, of course, you have 1 year, I think, as it is. It's 1 year to be together. It's not written anywhere. It's just a more of an idea of together for a year. Then you see what you can learn from each other. But the way I see it is for as long as it takes for that person to feel that they got what they needed from you, or for you to feel that you've helped them as long as you or as much as you could. So in my mind, it could be anywhere from a few months or maybe even a few weeks, and you realize, okay, maybe I'm not the right mentor for this person, or this person thinks you're not the right mentor for me, and then you can switch, of course, and find someone else that's more appropriate. Or maybe you've been together for a long time and still you can meet and benefit from each other and learn from each other. But maybe Tamara, I don't know if there is like a limit.
There is no official limit at all. The recommendation is indeed, as you say, a couple of months. My experience is that I've had mentorships which lasted for a full year, but normally they're a bit shorter, so 6 to 8 months, about 6 to 8 sessions, monthly sessions as I like to do them. But again, it's not set in stone. Other people like doing bi-weekly sessions or bi-monthly. It really depends on what works for the mentor and the mentee, and for the mentorship goal that they agree on together. Because that's the key thing about mentorship, is that it's normally around an objective that the mentee comes into the relationship with, that the mentor will try to have them achieve. And the thing is that while this program has a finite goal and a finite time, the mentorship relationship can go on for years and years and years. So I have mentees that I mentored 4 years ago, and about once a year we check in with each other, see how we do, see what's new. I love receiving updates from my mentees about, hey, I got the job, I got the promotion.
yeah.
So it's just very, very rewarding.
Because you're already invested in this person's development, in the relationship that you've built up, like the professional or maybe even friendship, I don't know, but like there is something there if you've been spending time with each other, and the mentee's been opening up about themselves and maybe their challenges, then as a mentor you also have an investment in that. And I guess it's nice to get the updates and find out what's happening.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's a good time to talk about this as well, because you mentioned that there's a goal for the mentoring sessions. How do we define the difference between mentoring and coaching? Because they're very different, but sometimes people do seem a bit confused. So let's deal with that here. What is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
It's a tricky one, because you're right. A lot of people use this interchangeably, or not correctly, or just have a different interpretation of these two concepts. So how I see it is that as a mentor, I share my experience, I give guidance, and I offer advice to my mentee based on my own journey. Yes, that journey might be very different from mine, but I usually have something common with my mentees, like my industry, which is localization, or the gaming industry, or leadership, or people management. So there is some overlap between our skills, where I am able to offer relevant guidance to them. Oh, and mentorship is normally done on a volunteer basis. So anybody can be a mentor who is willing to share their experience with somebody else. Coaching, on the other hand, is a profession. So you have to train to be a coach. And for that, you don't necessarily have to have a professional overlap with your coachee, What a coach would do is they create safe space, they ask the right question, and help people reflect so that they can find their own solutions rather than providing guidance or advice or recommendation. Their role is to help them with confidence and clarity, regardless of their background. So both approaches, both mentorship and coaching, are amazing tools to support professional and personal growth, but the tool set is quite different. But both require building trust, strong rapport between the two people, and approaching the conversations with an open mind.
Yeah, so it's good to know what you're getting into, what you're signing up for, and that also with the mentoring, you're also learning from the other person's journey, whether that's somebody who is, I don't know, is it obviously the time difference has to work out, but is it you're an international organization, so is it possible to have mentors and mentees in different places, if that makes more sense? I mean, most of it's online, so
I can jump on this one.
yeah.
So I have so Tamara is in a different time zone than I am, but it's not a big difference. So that works perfectly. I do have a mentee who is in Colombia. So it's interesting, but we make it work. So, you can always find a time to meet, and although in the program, you can also see that. So you can see where the mentor is. So if that's not going to work out for you because of time differences, that's something that you can take into account. So if you're listening in and you're thinking about this, maybe also look at that in case that could be a constraint for you. So yeah, it's there are a lot of people from around the world, and then I have someone who's like a few kilometers away from me in Malaga. So I'm in Seville, she's in Malaga, so we're like really, really close by.
You can meet for a coffee then if you want to. It doesn't always have to be online if you want to meet in real life if it's someone in your city.
Mm-hmm.
And how about the language then? Because presumably if you both have a different first language, then you have to choose on one. But if you have the same, is there, you can have the sessions in any language that works for both participants, or?
What's your experience, Tamara? Mine is, well, I have them in English and in Spanish. So, but I don't know if that's the case with everyone.
My sessions are normally in English. My native language is Hungarian, so I found one person in Women in Localization mentorship who was Hungarian, and we were paired for the mentorship. So that's rare. Yeah, it's a small language with not a lot of speakers, so no surprises there. I think for most of us, our working language is going to be English. So it's not just which language we feel most comfortable in communicating, but also which is the language in which we are used to using the jargon for the profession. I'm a native Hungarian, but I find it incredibly hard to speak about my job and challenges to my friends back in Hungary, because I've only ever worked in a company where the language of the business was English. So, so in that sense, I think it's just easier for me to do this in English.
Yeah. Likewise. I think it's funny last week, because I also find it difficult to talk about localization in Spanish. And last week I was preparing for a very important meeting, and Tamara knows about it because this is the project that we're doing together. And then I come prepared to the meeting with all my stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, we all speak Spanish. Let's do the meeting in Spanish." And I was like, "Oh, I am not prepared for this." And then, well, we did it in Spanish and it went well. But you keep like putting in like words in English here and there because you don't remember. So yeah, I agree. English, it's easier. Sometimes can be in another language, but definitely also my preference. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering if people could like specify that on the form, like, oh, it'd be really cool to have, if they wanted that. But I guess there is space to add anything that isn't in the fields that you have to fill in.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a field to put in any additional preferences, but also, as I mentioned, the mentees are presented with a couple of potential mentors, and if they find someone with whom they have that common language that they are looking for, then they can choose that mentor.
Okay, so let's the main reason for this episode is about learning, like how we all learn in so many ways, and it's not just being on courses, but you can also learn from other experiences, one of those being mentoring. And so I would be interested in finding out a bit more about your personal stories as much as you want to share, but what would you say that you've learned from being a mentor or a mentee? Let's start with Teresa. What are your biggest learnings from, I know you haven't been involved for as long, but what have you learned so far?
So I think I'm going to focus on the mentee side. I'm going to leave Tamara the mentor side. But as a mentee, I think this is a common issue that people are having nowadays with AI. Teams are becoming thinner, even within the same company, which means that often you're alone in your discipline, or the team is small within that discipline. And this happens in localization, and more teams are one person, maybe. So that means that when I started at Mount 2 years ago, I started doing what I knew how to do. But at some point, there was no one with the knowledge to sort of challenge me on the decisions that I was making or the things that I was doing. And I was like, okay, I need a figure. I need someone that has gone through this, or that has a big team, or that has done localization a different way. And it's not inside my company. But I need this. And then Women in Localization mentorship program. And that's why I connected with Tamara. I had a huge project to run, and I didn't have all the experience to do it. And so we partnered for this project, and she's giving me advice on it, but not only on how to run the project itself, but sometimes it's about how you communicate with stakeholders. Sometimes it's about, what did you find difficult in the project, and what do you find difficult to do? What do you find easier to do, and how you can improve in that thing that you find difficult. So, for example, just to give an example, for me, it is asking people to do things, or demanding of people. Like if I'm expecting to get something from someone, I find it difficult to say, "Hey, I've been waiting for this. Can you please just give it to me?"
Yep.
And I find it super difficult. And I had conversations with Tamara and how she approaches that, and that really helped me approach that aspect of the project. Just this one example of many, right? So for me, it has been really, really, really important because, like I said, I was alone in my company. I didn't have that figure, which I found outside of someone that can guide me through that process. And that's my experience. And I think maybe Tamara can give the insight on the other side as the mentor.
I love that Teresa shared her own story, because I think for many of us, when we think about a mentor and a mentee, we would think of a mentee being somebody who is very junior, maybe freshly graduated. They are just starting out on their professional journey, and the mentor being the more senior, experienced professional, just helping guide their first steps in their career. But as Teresa's story and example shows, while we have this first example as well, but also when you've reached a certain seniority in your profession, you might still find yourself in a situation where you just need somebody to bounce ideas off, or to vent your frustrations to, or to have that someone, not just at a sounding board, but somebody to cheer you on and to give you that confidence to know that you can do it, you got this. So in that sense, having a mentor from somewhere else can be extremely beneficial. When I was a one-person department at Frontier, I wish I had somebody like that. So it is an amazing experience that I can be that person to other people who are that I wish I had myself. The other thing I really love about being a mentor is that through my mentees, I can gain insights to different companies, different fields, different challenges that I would not encounter otherwise. So I have been with the same game studio for almost 10 years now. So a mentorship program like this allows me to become a more versatile professional, because localization programs come in all shapes and sizes, and no two program is ever the same or remotely similar. So this kind of versatility and flexibility I could only achieve otherwise by job hopping.
And I think, Tamara, sorry, but I don't know if you agree with me on that. It also helps you stay updated.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I see from my mentees that they come with a lot of energy. They just finished, they're looking into everything, for example, AI. they're looking a lot into AI because, as we know, it's like where the direction in which we're going, right? And they force me to, in a way, keep up with the new technologies, with the courses that are available, with who is posting, for example, on LinkedIn that I should follow related to this kind of skills. So they keep you on your toes as well a little bit, which I think it's really, really beneficial as well.
Yeah, and I think there's always something new to learn, like even from people who are just coming into the industry, or people who've just, finished their training or whatever, that they have ideas and, as you said, challenges that you maybe haven't come across before. So it's not just a one-way learning. You learn as well being the mentor. And I think it's interesting the point about, because I think it's quite common that people think, oh, the mentees are the people that are new, that are just starting. But so you can take that both ways, that you can be a mentee when you are well established in your career, and you want somebody who is more senior than you that can help you, but also you can be a mentor when okay, maybe, yeah, not the beginning, but you don't have to wait till you have a really senior role before you can mentor somebody else who is a few years behind you, or who is maybe moving into a different part of the industry. Do you have that as well, with people who want to change what they're doing and are looking for somebody that they maybe have a well-established career, but they want to change their focus and then want to find a mentor who has more experience in that area? Does that happen as well?
Yes, absolutely. This is the other amazing use case for mentorship. And yes, you're right. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is very senior to start mentoring. I think this comes down to imposter syndrome, which is especially common for women, as far as I know from the statistics, unfortunately. So normally, if I have a mentee who is ready to be an amazing mentor because they have a lot to offer to other mentees, I actively encourage them. And often it turns out that they never thought about becoming a mentor because they just don't think they know enough to be a mentor. So yeah, often people just need a little bit of a nudge that yes, they are ready for it, and they don't need to be experts. They just have to be open-minded and be willing to support someone who is less senior than they are in the field.
And maybe I would add to that, because I've come across the change of career as well. I'm not going to give specifics because, well, it can come in any way, shape, or form. Even maybe that had a completely different career already for years, and now they want to delve into localization, or they've been doing something specific within localization and they want to specialize in something else. But another thing where I think that a mentorship program could be really relevant is when you are, and I've seen this as well, when you're maybe going back to work after stopping for a while for whatever reason. So it could be, say, a woman that's been on maternity leave and wants to start work again, or maybe someone that has been, looking for a job, or just taking a break and going back to work. Maybe they already have found, it doesn't need to be support on helping find a job. Maybe you already found a job and now you're like, oh, now I have to look, go into a new company, or yeah, exactly. So, and then maybe you just, you want someone to come along with you into that new journey. And that's another option as well, I think, for a mentorship program.
Okay, so there's lots of different cases, lots of different scenarios. But if we talk about like mentoring as a skill, what do you think the skills are that you would need to be a good mentor, either if somebody was considering it, or if we're just talking about the topic as as a general concept? What do you need to be, or how do you need to be, or what skills do you need to have to be a good mentor? This is for both of you.
That's a really, really good question. And we have been talking about some of the advantages of mentorship already, more of the practical advantages. But of course, it's an amazing opportunity to grow some soft skills that are transferable to other areas of life. So what makes a good mentor? One of the things I believe makes a good mentor is to understand that everybody is different. And while I feel I qualify to be a mentor because I have walked the walk, I have done things, seen things, But it doesn't mean that my mentee's work is going to be exactly the same as mine. And there might be parallels. There has to be parallels because that's why we can have a successful relationship. But every career journey is unique, and I can't just copy paste my solutions to their problems. So this is, I think, one of the big important skills. The second one is empathy and curiosity, which kind of goes back to the previous one. The genuinely wanting to understand the other person's situation and challenges. And maybe a third one is passion and commitment. As we've discussed, mentorship is normally a voluntary thing, either as an organized program like Women in Localization or more of a casual mentorship relationship. The mentor just has to be invested in the relationship and the mentee's progress and growth, and truly engage with the process.
I agree. I agree with that. Maybe I would just add something that I had to work on a lot at the beginning. A few years ago when I started as team lead, active listening, and really giving people the space to come up with their own. So maybe this is like a bit where mentorship and coaching meet but don't merge. It's basically giving also people the opportunity and the space to come up with their own solutions, if they already have them, instead of just jumping to telling them, oh, you know what you should do, or you know what I did, but maybe just say, okay, so how do you think you're gonna solve this, or do you have any ideas on how you're gonna go about that? And I find that to be useful, but also surprising, because when you believe that the other person might already have the answer, you hear a lot of very interesting things, and you learn a lot more when you're just trying to sort of like shoehorn your experience into this other person's experience, when you're just maybe that's another skill, having an open mind, coming with an open mind, and being willing to listen and to think that maybe that person actually will come up with a better solution than yours if given the chance or the opportunity. So I would add that to everything that Tamara said, which 100% agree with.
Yeah, that can be hard, because if you think I can see the answer, but somebody's personality may be different, somebody's approach to problem solving or to organizing their workload or to building relationships. I guess there are so many differences, difference in the structure of the organization or the stakeholders in the projects that they're working with. There's so many factors that could be different from your situation, whilst you have what worked for you. I guess that's just one road to get there, and there are more. But I think it's also giving people the space to sit with somebody to talk about that, because when you're going around the problems in your own head, you don't often get very far, because it's only sometimes when you're speaking them out and exploring the different solutions with someone else that you can see what is more likely to work, or come across new ideas. And so I guess you can guess what the next question is going to be if we flip this round. What makes a good mentee?
Okay, I can start this one as well. I have been a mentee myself and had some amazing mentors. I feel that an important thing as a mentee is to have a clear goal that you want to achieve with your mentor. But also, I've already mentioned passion and commitment from the mentor side. The same commitment is required from a mentee. So they have to be prepared to invest time and energy into their own growth. I am the kind of mentor who gives a lot of homework and book recommendations. So mentees should read the books, read the articles, do the homework, ponder about the points that we discussed, prepare for the session in advance, prepare questions. So I think that is a very important part of the mentorship relationship, to be productive, because we mentioned it's a couple of sessions every now and then. So it's not very intensive in terms of the actual live person-to-person contact. So that's where a lot of the learning and the growth happens in between the sessions, when the mentee takes things away, it tries them out that works, see that how it works. So yeah,
I agree. And I would add to that you will get out of the mentorship program as much as you put in. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything out, but the clearer your objective is and the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it, which is only fair, I guess. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about being a mentee, just remember that it is a lot of work. It's not unsurmountable. It's still worth it, and it's really good to do. But it is work, so it's not the mentor is not going to give you the answers. The mentor is not going to do the work for you. The mentor is not going to do the homework for you. So you're expected to put in the effort as well. And I think a good mentee is also someone that not only knows that, but is also proactive. That doesn't only expect or waits for you to give the homework, but actually maybe thinks of things that they can do on their own, and they come to you, and then they are like, oh, and by the way, I did this and that, and what do you think about this? That you didn't tell me to do, but I did it anyway. So that's really nice to see as well when they do that.
Yeah, it's being proactive, isn't it? It's taking responsibility for your own learning or your own development, and accepting the help and learning from your mentor. But it's ultimately the mentor's not going to fix your life or your problems. You have to be prepared to do the work as well, and maybe to try things out, because maybe the first solution won't work as well as you wanted, but then you have another couple of solutions that you can try. It's figuring out what is going to work for you, and investing the time and energy into your own personal or professional, probably both, development, and making time for it, I guess, as well, because people can set aside the time for the meeting on their calendar, but it's also the time for the reading and the homework, and making sure that happens. Otherwise, there will be limited opportunities for growth when you come to the next meeting.
I love that disclaimer. We are not fixing anyone's life. I mean, still, we can be like a shoulder to cry on, but yeah.
Yeah, let's managing expectations. So Tamara already mentioned something like enjoying getting feedback and finding out what past mentees are doing and their successes. But can you think of other things, like an example of something that you've enjoyed about the program, something that made you happy? Because we've talked about what you learned, but also, what's good, what's enjoyable about the experience.
I have a couple of really fun, beautiful examples from my my past mentorship, so I wouldn't mind sharing a few of them. So last year I was mentoring someone who was a one-person localization department, coming straight from an LSP with little experience in running an internal program. So she needed some help. She wanted to get a translation tool. So how should we do that? She had to get a business case done. What's a business case? And I sent her a couple of examples. We looked at what she prepared, and her manager didn't just accept her business case, but what she presented exceeded the manager's expectations. So she did a stellar job putting that business case together on her own, with some limited guidance from me, but it was her who put in all the work in getting that done. I just gave her a nudge. The other one, again, it was someone from last year. So she was thinking of a career change. So we were looking at the professional values that she had. So what are the values that she would be looking for in a company, in a work environment? And then we looked at a couple of companies where the values aligned with hers. And earlier this year, she pinged me, I'm going to have an interview with them. And she got the job, of course.
Oh, that's great
So
news.
it was amazing. But again, she took me out for lunch because she was very grateful for my help. But again, all I did was ask the right questions and give her the confidence and give her the tip, which companies might be aligned with her values. But again, she was the one doing all the work with the interviews, starting the conversations and really getting the job.
sometimes that's all people need, isn't it? A bit of a nudge in the right direction, because as you mentioned before, the imposter syndrome can come in, and sometimes it's good just to have someone else telling you that you can do it, or encouraging you to do things that you maybe didn't think you could do or didn't think you had the skills for. And often that isn't true, because we are too modest, or we forget the skills that we have, and sometimes it helps to have someone else there to remind us what is already there. And Teresa, is there something that you've enjoyed that was fun?
I'm gonna flip the pan. I'm going to say this from the mentee point of view. I'm gonna go back to my example, and I mean Tamara knows this because she's following me on this project, and I've had other mentors before helping me on other projects, but I think this one is like, there is one point when you get, or the one project or the one job where you really are like, okay, this is a pretty big step up from where I am, and I had moments where I was like, why did I say yes to this? Like, where did I get myself into? Like, really, like days, pretty bad days where I would like leave a meeting and be like, why am I doing this to myself? Or like, am I really capable of doing this? Am I really capable of, putting this project together and making it successful? And I remember that one of the first times I met with Tamara, I was having the first meetings for this project. And I remember most of her work was on actually telling me, no, Teresa, like, you've got this. Like, you wanted this. This is what you've worked so hard to do this project, to lead this project. Now you have it. Now, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna be successful, and you're gonna do a good job. And now, as time goes by, and I'm growing into this, believing in myself, and like actually, thinking that I can actually do this, we are working more on the strategic part of things and communication part of things, and how I get the buy-in from specific stakeholders or specific parts of the project. And this is what you get out of it. It's not only the experience from someone, it's also hearing someone that is not you, that's outside of your head, saying, you've got this, you can do this, and hear you say, okay, what's your experience? What do you know how to do? How would you approach this? And then you tell them, and they tell you, well, then you are capable of doing this. From everything that you're telling me as an external observer, you've got this. And so if you're in a situation like mine, it doesn't need to be like a huge project. Maybe it's, like I said, coming back to work after some time, or maybe it's your first role, or maybe it is you finish your career and you don't know what to do, and you're doubting yourself, and you're doubting that you're ever gonna make it, or ever gonna be successful, or ever. Maybe what you need is someone to walk the walk with you and just cheer you on at the beginning, and then that will evolve into something else. So maybe not what you came within your head, and it just becomes something else. So I have Tamara, cheerleader,
Yeah.
who is
And you
now
can think
turning
of that.
into a strategic partner on how to like move this forward. So like, just to say, you can get a lot of different things from the one experience about one project or one case, or it's not just one thing.
And probably not the things, like some of the things will be unexpected. There'll be things that you didn't anticipate, which is also like, that life and learning, it's not always the things that we think we're supposed to be learning, but there are other things as well. But I guess for anyone who's thinking about being a mentee, then it's good to have some idea of what this goal could be. So when you're thinking about the application process, is that right? Like, you should have an idea of what you want to achieve when you're signing up for a mentorship program. Is that fair? Or
Yes, ideally, yes, absolutely. But if you want to be a mentee and you don't have like clearly scoped and worded objective, then your mentor can help you with this. So you can come up with a very generic thing, like, I want to learn about localization engineering or game localization, and then the mentor can help structure the journey with you. It is very learner-led, a mentorship process, but if you come in a bit clueless about what you want to learn, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, then the mentor can help phrase that objective with you.
Yeah, because it's always, I mean, my background is in language teaching, but if people just say, oh, I want to learn English, like, why? What? I mean, it's good to learn English, but like once you understand why you want to learn something and how you're going to use it and what's it for, and you can get so much more done more quickly when you have a clearly defined goal. Yeah, sure, it takes some work to find it sometimes, and you can have help with that, but it's always good to be working towards a goal, even if the goal changes and you think, well, I know something about this area now, and now I want to branch off because I found something that I like more. Then you can change your goal, but if you don't have one to start with, it's a lot harder to feel that you've accomplished something.
I mean, there is value to that as well, right? Maybe you have different mentors and you do different parts of the process, and I think so you can have a mentee that just comes in and they're like, I don't know what to do, and then your work with them is going to be to try to narrow down in which direction they want to go. And then maybe you have someone that is like, I know exactly what type of job I want to do, but I have no idea how to get there. Or I have no idea where, in what type of company, what type of environment, and then you help them sort of narrow it down as well. Or then they come to you and they're like, I know what I want to do, and I know where I want to do it, and I know what I'm missing exactly, and I want you to help me that thing that I am missing to get what I really want. I need you to help me get it, like, So it can be different. All of it has value. It's just that you need to know in what part of your journey you are. And what's the final object. Doesn't need to be, I want to get a job doing this, or I want to be successful in this project. It can be, I want to explore together with you what the options are. That's also, a fair objective, especially at the beginning or when you're doing a career change as well.
Because there might be things that you don't even know about because it's not your area. There might be this researching phase is what brings you to what you really want to do, because something exists that you didn't even know was a job, and you discover it, and that's the path you want to go down. But without a bit of help, you may never find it. And I guess that's the thing about the adaptability and the willingness to listen on the part of the mentor, just to, really discover what people need and to look at different approaches. And I guess the more mentees you have, the more you develop these different approaches too, because people have such different needs, especially when you're working one-to-one with people. And I guess that's also a learning process for you as mentors, because you have to find different ways to help people who have very different personalities or needs or cultures or ages. Or do you think you've grown as mentors because of the wide variety of experiences you've had with different people? Or
I absolutely have. So thinking back of those first couple of mentees that I had in 2021, I am definitely a lot more conscious about how I approach relationship, and as Teresa explained, depending on how each person comes into relationship with, just changing my approach. If somebody needs more guidance, then I have already a couple of exercises that I've used in the past, and they worked in helping to guide them. So definitely I'm more prepared. And I love it that you mentioned that people coming from different cultures and age groups, because they have very different needs. They can have very different needs based on that. In localization being, working in global business and international communication, I think we're already quite familiar with cultural dimensions and some concepts like how to work with high and low context cultures, direct, indirect feedback, the coconut and peach type of cultures, and and the like. So all of that comes in very useful when you have to coach someone from a very different cultural background from your own. So it's also a very interesting learning experience.
Yeah, I agree. And in my case, also, I've learned to not take things at face value. Like sometimes I've had mentees, but in the past, because I had a big team and it was through the pandemic, and they had to sort of pivot and do something else if they wanted to have a job. So it was a lot of pressure, lots of emotions as well, you know, people being let go in the company. So there was, it was really difficult for them. And I remember sometimes being like, okay, wait, but am I just listening what I want to hear, or sort of like latching on, like you said, now, oh, you have a problem, I can solve it. And I realized that I've moved a lot away from that to, you don't become the crutch on which the person, you know, that they don't need you. You don't want to generate a relationship where they are dependent on you, but you want to help them become self-sufficient in a way that when you're not there as a mentor, they can go on and they don't need you. And that means that you've been a successful mentor. When they don't need you anymore, then you know you did your job well, right? And I remember
really
at the very,
nice.
very beginning, yeah, but it is true, right? You want people to be successful on their own, and you're there cheering for them. And I think at the beginning there was so much stress, so many emotions, that I sometimes became like the person that they relied on, and then switching that mentality to today, the way I see it, and the journey that I've been through, where I'm like, okay, yeah, but I should never become the person that they depend on, that they need me. No, that they don't need me. That's a good thing. That's like the objective of the mentor, is when we are not needed anymore, then we did a good job.
Yeah, so you're empowering them rather than taking care of them, or you know, it's you giving them the tools to do it for themselves. That's really cool. And I think there's a lot to, I mean, it's not something that I saw more and more about, you know, because I'm following more of the women in localization posts, and I've got some friends who are involved as well. And so I'm seeing more about this topic on my feed nowadays than I did before. But I think it's sometimes something we don't think about in terms of professional development. And that's also why I wanted to do this episode. So I would encourage any listeners now to think, is this something that you could benefit from? Is there, or could you offer your skills either informally or formally as a part of a program that's already organized? And I know not everybody who is listening works in localization, but many people do. So for people who would be eligible to apply to the Women in Localization program, what would the next steps be? What should they do next if they've listened to this and thought this sounds interesting, this sounds cool, I want to do it? What happens next? What should they do?
And go to the link that I hope you will share
Yes,
with
I will.
the listeners. Yes. And create a profile for themselves as a mentor, as a mentee, or both. And as a mentee, go in, try to find a mentor from the ones that are offered to them by the system. As a mentor, wait until a mentee reaches out to them. Confirm the relationship if it's an appropriate one, and then start talking to each other. For coaches, they have something called a chemistry call. So if somebody gets a new coach, I like to do this with mentorship as well, is to have an introductory call, just about half an hour, just to gauging whether we're a good match for each other, just to understand what my mentee is coming in with, and am I in a position that I can help them with or not. And in that case, we know it after the first session.
Be honest. If you
Yeah,
think it's not working,
exactly.
if they think the chemistry isn't there, then be honest. And I guess also don't take that personally if you are the potential mentor and the mentee chooses someone else. It's not a reflection on you, it's just
Yeah, exactly. I think we kind of feel once we found the right mentor or coach, because it just they make us feel good at the end of the conversation. Same with mentees as a mentor. I think whenever I talk to Teresa, we normally have our sessions Friday morning, so just before work, and I think we both go into our Friday like energized, feeling good. So that's an important indicator that the relationship is working and is doing what it's meant to do. That we learn from each other actively, and it's just amazing. And it can be a little bit awkward once the relationship has come to an end, because it does feel like breaking up with someone a little bit.
oh.
So yeah, it is. So it's sometimes, I notice that my mentees just don't want to initiate that conversation because they don't want to kick their mentor out in a way. But then I already have my ways of how to approach the situation, because it just naturally we feel that the relationship has come to an end and there is nothing more we can learn from each other at that point. It reaches a natural conclusion, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way of things, and we stay in touch and check in every now and then, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the end if both parties want to stay in touch for the odd catch-up call and how are you doing, then it can continue, but if it doesn't, it may have served its purpose too, and then that's also a learning opportunity. Okay, so I'm going to include the link on the page with the episode so that people can set up their profiles if they want to find out more. Is there anything that either of you want to say just as a closing comment before we finish, or have we covered everything?
And we're looking at each other like, do you have something to say? You don't see us because you're only listening to our voices, but we can see each other and we're like, are you going to do it? So to me, I would just say, and I think it's something that Tamara mentioned before, and I just want to reinforce that. Very often and I'm going to say not only mentorship program, but also like conferences, podcasts, articles, and we take the passive side of things. We attend the conference and we listen to other people talk. We read the article, we listen to the podcast. We are mentees, and just ask yourself if there is anything that you can give back. So be the person speaking at the conference if you can. There's always something interesting that you can share with the rest of us, I'm sure. So I always encourage people to think, is there something I can give back to the localization community, it's a beautiful community. It's very, I think it's not small, but it's very well connected. Like I know a lot of people from the localization industry and I'm in touch with them even if I've never seen them in person in my life. So it's a very supportive community. And if you've benefited from the community, from the support of others, and there is anything that you can give back, whether it's in the form of an interview, like I said, an article, a conference, or also becoming a mentor, just think about that, because it's always nice to give back if you can.
Yeah, that's a really lovely way to end, unless there's anything else. But I think that's something everyone can do, all of us, wherever we are, however far down the road we are in our career, there's always something you can give back. Okay, well, I think that's a good place to stop, and I would say have a look at our link if that's something that you want to sign up for the Women in Localization program. And if you don't, well, and even if you do, think about what you can give back. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be sharing your knowledge. There's a lot that all of us can share. So yeah, how can you give something back today? And with that, we'll finish. Thank you both for coming. It's been really good hearing more about the program, about your experiences, and I think you've given people a lot to think about in terms of what they can do to become involved as well. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.